Okay, so this is my build thread, and I wanted to show you some stuff that I had to do a lot of scratch building on, okay? So, December of 2000, I injured my back and I was out of work for quite a while. And so I started building this Fletcher class destroyer kit that was made by Lindbergh. And the Lindbergh kit was motorized, and you could put like these goofy little cams in it. The boat would go in a circle, or a couple like a figure eight and stuff like that. But anyway, uh, the Lindbergh kit is really not a very good rendition of a Fletcher class destroyer. The hull is shaped very incorrectly, and everything is really big and clunky, because yeah, it's a model kit for a child's going to put it together and run the thing around a swimming pool or a pond, right? And so this piece right here, jeez. This piece right here is the main gun director for the 5-inch guns. And so you can see there's like photo etch parts, and then like I made the housing to hold this big antenna here. And then other photo etch pieces to hold it, and trying to make it look like photographs, of the real thing, And this here is like a twin Bofors 40 millimeter gun. This is the gun director for these guns, and this whole this little house that it sits on was scratch built, styrene, different sheet styrenes. The gun itself came from HR Products, and I believe HR Products is pretty much out of business because they didn't, like, their molds got old, and some of the parts, that they were making near the end were really crappy because their molds were really shot. And so this is just sitting here, but I was going to have a screw holding it on so that it could rotate. But all this is scratch built except for the white metal pieces, And over here we have the 5-inch, one of the 5-inch gun houses, and these things, like a lot of model kits, they had a lot of detail molded into them. I sanded everything off, and even the gun house itself is like there's supposed to be 3 shaped like this, and then there's 2 that are supposed to be shaped differently. So there's 2 of them like this. Or actually, no, the kit, all 5 of them are the same. They're supposed to be 2 shaped differently, the slope on the front of it. But anyway, so the gun barrel is actually brass. You can buy these in sets of 5. And then I made it so that it could pivot up and down. And all the like the little the wire guards here, I made those out of just wire, it might have been like a thin strand of a copper wire, and I bent them on you can get a tool that you can make all these different size grab handles. And so the outer piece is just, bent on this tool, and then the 2 little pieces in the middle, they're just straight pieces of wire, so you got to drill holes for the wire, and you stick the 2 little pieces in first, and you make sure that they're at the proper height. And just a little bit of super glue on the end of a toothpick to glue them on. Then you glue the outer piece on, So that's how I did both of those. And then on the top of the turret, back here, there's like a manual sight. There's a hatch that the gun commander can come out the hatch, and he can actually aim the gun manually. Or like he'll tell them, like somebody inside, where to point the gun, right? Because the gun directors, or like the main gun director could get damaged in battle or something, and so this is just like a secondary feature that they could aim the guns independently. And so like the sides, like I said, I sanded off all the details and I put on these, just glued these little square pieces on because there were a bunch of different hatches to maintain the house. And on the back I have a ladder. This is a white metal ladder. I think I might have got those from HR Products also. The gun, the sight on the top is like an actual, like a sight that you would put in a small machine gun. I forget what PE that came from, but that's where I got that sight. But the rest of it is all scratch built out of tiny little styrene pieces. I put so much time into building the 5 of these, And so this is the 1/125th Lindbergh. Okay, and so I was like, the Lindbergh isn't finished, okay. And then I got into building a 196 scale Fletcher. And so, it's basically got all the same parts, And like even the Lindbergh Fletcher has, like the twin 20 millimeter Oregon machine, like guns. And then, like most of the Fletchers just have 5 dual 40 millimeter Bofors, right? So on the 196 scale Fletcher that I'm modeling, during World War II, it was kamikazed and the ship went back to be refitted. And so they took off one of the torpedo launchers and they had two quad Bofors set up, okay? So the 20 millimeter, I made it so that you could, elevate and, you can move the gun. It rotates on its base. All this white metal comes from John Haynes in the UK. And the base of this is cast resin. That came from John Haynes also. You have to assemble it. But like the brass piece around the back was just like PE scraps. I made that to make it look, like some of the pictures I see. And then, now this is that rear, it's not like in the very back of the ship, but it's one, no, it is the very rear of the ship, the twin Bofors set. And the particular ship I'm modeling had this mast, had this ECM mast on it. And so these two little domes came from, like I didn't make the domes. They came, like, you buy the hull from somebody and then you buy like all the fittings from John Haynes or somebody else, and the gun director came from John Haynes. But all this, everything else except for the domes, I scratch built all this. Even this little antenna. This little antenna is made out of 20,000 diameter brass wire. This piece right here, it's like an elongated type of antenna. That was made from a paper clip. And then there's just brass tubing with like a small piece of wire in it. This flat piece here was a piece of really thin piece of sheet metal I had. And styrene bits and like cutting this piece out of styrene was kind of difficult. But that's one piece on each side. And then, the mast is made out of brass tube. And then you can see that I have rungs that go up the mast that a sailor could climb to, if those antenna domes needed to be repaired. But so I mean, these are 20 thousandths wire. I drilled holes through this tubing, and I don't remember if these are one piece. It was like I may have, they might be one piece because like it was just L-shaped, and then after you glue it in place, you bend the other end. And then all these little support wires, you bend them around piece of tubing that's coming up, and once again you drill holes here to put this piece of tube in. Then you bend this little 20 thousandths wire. You drill holes here so you can stick it in. Actually, maybe that's just glued on, but you glue everything together, and this brass piece here for the upper part of this, like the gun tub, I made this out of a sheet of brass. But then you can see on the inside there's some PE pieces that came. All the PE you see on this, like the sights on the gun came from John Haynes. John Haynes had some really nice PE for the Fletcher class destroyers. And see, these are like racks for 40 millimeter ammo. And it's like, you know, it's pretty tedious gluing all those things together with CA glue, you know. And once again, you know, you can see I got a hole there that this thing will have a threaded hole in it, so I can just, you know, you can point it wherever you want to point it, you know. And the rest of this, you know, the rest of the bottom of it still needs to be detailed out. There's like wire grab handles that go all the way around this thing. I've got the hatches that you can either glue open or you can just glue them shut. And then I imagine someplace on this it would have a ladder to go up. Either the ladder could be made out of just bent wire, just have a bunch of rungs, you know, and then there'd be other pieces added to this, you know, like they had like these would be added to the side, and they have those like like the wood floats, you know, that they could throw overboard if the ship was going to sink, you know. But so like on the 196 scale I'm modeling, so it has 2 of the quads, and then it's got 3 of the you know, the dual 40 millimeters. It's got, I don't know, maybe as much as a dozen of these, you know, the twin Oerlikons. And the Fletcher class, they had 2 torpedo banks that had 5 torpedoes each, you know. So there's quite a lot of details that can be, you know, like you buy most of the fittings, and then there's a heck of a lot of scratch building to be done, you know. So anyway, long video, but this, you know, and it's like I had a buddy that was a prolific ship model builder, you know, and he liked to build a 196. He didn't RC any of his, but the one I'm building is RC, and so was the Lindbergh is going to be RC. They got twin screws, and but I actually made, when I made this whole mast here, I made 2 of them, and I sent one to my friend in New York because he had built the Fletcher class. He modeled the USS Kidd, and but he didn't make the ECM mast for it, and I sent that to him. And boy, he was blown away. He said you know, I mean, he did some detail work, but he said that this thing is super detailed. He was shocked. He mounted it on his Kidd. You know, painted it, got it mounted on there, and he showed me some pictures, and boy, it looked sweet. But anyway, that's it, you know. I'll go back to working on the M24, but you know, I want to get the M24 done. Then I'm working on that M8 Greyhound, converting it to RC, and then after that I'm going to go back to the 196 scale Fletcher. Forgive me, I'm getting emotional here, but you know, I mentioned in a text, you know, none of us are getting any younger. Any project I have that's half finished when I'm no longer here, whether my wife or my daughter, it's just going to go right in the rubbish. I don't think they'll even try to sell any of it. So if I finish that Fletcher, yeah, it'll be worth some good money, and they'll definitely sell it. Just like the you know, my 1/6 scale M5 Stewart, that's pretty much finished. And kind of a funny side note, I've been building models since I was 6 years old. I've never weathered anything I built, and that's kind of embarrassing, you know. But I never got into weathering, and so many guys, I watch videos on YouTube, and these people, they do it with ease, but you know yourself, you need all these different paints and, you know, little things, you know, like pin washes and all this stuff, and it's like, oh my God, I just don't want to get into it. And forgive me, you know, But I got the patience to make tiny little things like this, and especially this little thing right here. This little thing is unbelievable. It took some time building this, but when you're making something, it doesn't take much longer. You can make two of them, and so I purposely made an extra one and gave it to my buddy there. But how's that for some scratch building? This is all scratch. There are no purchase. Yeah, you buy the tubing, you buy the wire, but this is all scratch building. Just looking at a photograph. How's that? It's pretty sweet.